Right, well, we asked Heidi Alexander whether she had been in receipt of any freebies recently. She said no, so let's hope that that turns out to be the case. But she would have thought, would you not, after the Taylor Swift tickets, after all the football tickets that Keir Starmer took, after all the suits, after all the glasses, after all the free holidays, you would think that the Labour government would at last have said, you know what? If we're taking money off pensioners, if we're taking money from farmers, if we're making schools absolutely fill themselves up with more and more pupils and making everybody's life a misery and putting up prices, putting up VAT, putting up national insurance, putting up petrol prices, putting up, you know, grocery prices, everything's going up, electricity prices going up, water prices going up, it might not be a great look to take free concert tickets to Sabrina Carpenter. But absolutely not. Let's talk to Will Kingston, political commentator. Will, very good morning to you.
G'day, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Hard to believe, isn't it, that that Rachel Reeves has fallen for this one. That here she is again having to defend taking free tickets. And with the most ridiculous explanation of all, she said, these are tickets that I could not buy. What, you mean otherwise they were given to you for free?
Yeah, I'm sure the public are thrilled to hear that she had money. Money can't buy tickets to Sabrina Carpenter. I can't fathom the stupidity here, Mike. I really can't. They've obviously been through their freebie scandal recently. It raises the questions of who is advising these people, or if they are advising them correctly, is Rachel Reeves not listening?
Yeah.
And more importantly, how out of touch do you have to be with the mood of the nation at the moment to do this? Again, whether or not it was technically allowed or disallowed under the rules, it doesn't matter. The stupidity, the optics, these are meant to be good politics. Well, they should be good politicians. It's just, I'm staggered by it, absolutely staggered.
It really is extraordinary, isn't it? And I mean, you'd have to know there will be other stories like this that will come out, because you would imagine, would you not, that if they didn't lock it all down, if Rachel Reeves thinks it's okay to do, there'll be other people that also think it's okay to do. And the truth of the matter is that the tickets came from some financial organisation. I think we know that it was a bank or something like that have a box at the O2. It's not particularly unusual. People get offered these things all the time. But you don't have to accept them. You can say no.
That's exactly right. If I got offered tickets to Sabrina Carpenter, I most certainly would say no. I find it just incredibly bizarre that you've got dire economic times at the moment, and this is, again, just another distraction for this government. It just goes to show the lack of judgment on behalf of her advisors and on behalf of Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely utterly extraordinary. Let's have a look at Rachel Reeves justifying why she was able to take these free Sabrina Carpenter tickets. This is on the BBC.
I went with a member of my family to see a concert a couple of weeks ago. I do now have security, which means it's not as easy as it would have been in the past to just sit in a concert, although that would probably be a lot easier for everyone concerned. So, look, I took those tickets to go with a member of my family. I thought that was the right thing to do from a security perspective.
Did you pay for them? Because you could pay for them.
Well, these weren't tickets that you could pay for. So there wasn't a price to those tickets. Obviously, I will declare that the value of them, but they weren't tickets that you were able to buy.
They weren't tickets that you were able to buy. I mean, does she think we're idiots?
It's so uncomfortable to listen to. Even if she did something like giving some money to charity or just something somewhat intelligent, you know, that would have passed the test. But again, it just goes to show that there is a lack of political feel in this government and a lack of connection with everyday people.
Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. Coming up on Wednesday, of course, she's got the more important business of having to answer not only for the free tickets, but to answer for the trashing of the economy that we've got going on. She's going to try and take on the unions, which doesn't sound like something particularly wise. She's looking to fire something like 10,000 civil servants. I'm not quite sure who she's going to pick on or what they're going to end up doing. But surely she's going to be creating quite a few people to go on the dole, isn't she?
Potentially. Mike, if this is actually the case, I'm all for it. To be honest with you, I think the civil service is incredibly bloated, but I just don't really believe it, because I think this government is developing a tendency to talk tough, to talk right or right-ish, and then continue to govern left. This is the same thing as saying we're going to go for growth and then raising taxes and increasing regulation, or getting tough on immigration and keeping the hotels and giving refugees houses. It's all of this sort of stuff where you hear this sort of rhetoric where they're trying to say we're a responsible, potentially centrist government, and yet there isn't that follow through. So if she actually does do this, I maybe disagree with you. I'm all for it. I just don't think it'll happen.
No, I'm all for the thinning down of the civil service as well. But the trouble is that you know exactly how these things work. She'll talk to the unions. The unions will do some kind of deal. It will cost an awful lot more money than we think it will cost, or that she will say that it will cost. And in the end, it will probably result in very few people actually leaving their offices.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think that is the way that this will pan out. It is interesting that this government is trying to... I think there's a really good article by Camilla Tominey in The Telegraph on the weekend around how they are making intentional effort to try and talk tough on a range of issues and sound almost centre-right. But again, it is just masking the fact that they are a pretty traditional leftist government. And so, again, I'm very dubious.
Well, you wouldn't have expected, would you, for a Labour government to come into power and start taking money away from the disabled, take money away from ordinary working people, even though they say they're not doing that, put up the energy prices that ordinary people are paying, take money away from pensioners, you know, drag more and more people on lower incomes into higher tax brackets. You know, they're doing all of the things that you wouldn't expect a Labour government to do, and they seem to be doing it because they think that that is going to help them become re-elected, and they think that it's going to be popular. But somebody pointed out, you know, taking money off of the disabled, even if it was the Tories doing it, and they would be held to pay if they were, at the end of the day, funding war in Ukraine, funding, you know, the unions and pay rises for the NHS and for teachers and all the rest of it, you know, they're getting everything wrong.
Yeah, they are, because they still have the instinct of a big spending leftist government. So they have to try and find some money somewhere. It's not going to come from growth or increased tax revenues, because they're increasing the tax burden so much that all the millionaires and billionaires are leaving the country. And as a result, they're trying to find savings generally in the areas with people who will not vote for them anyway, like older people, like pensioners, for example. So they are getting their priorities wrong, but I think it is because of the fact that they don't understand how to grow an economy the proper way, and so they're trying to do these little fudges around the edges.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's have a look at what Rishi Sunak had to say, because it looks as though he was a bit of a soothsayer during the election campaign.
Mark my words, Labour will raise your taxes. It's in their DNA. Your work, your car, your pension.
Thank you. OK,
you name it,
sorry,
Labour will tax it. Keir Starmer is going to put your taxes up by £2,000.
Thank you.
So if people are worried about their electricity bill, their food bill...
OK, thank you very much. I am going to stop.
£2,000 worth of tax rises are not going to help with any of those things. I said it before, I'll say it again. He is going to put up your taxes, put up your bills, as clear as night follows day.
And he was right, was he not? I mean, it now turns out, according to, I think, the Institute for Fiscal Studies yesterday, that average families will be worse off by 2030 by something like £1,400–1,500 a year.
Yeah, that's right. Now, look, there's a couple of things here. Number one, the economic situation in the UK is dire, and it is because of 20 to 30 years of economic mismanagement, which has been turbocharged by this government. But the second thing is, and the thing that really annoys me, is the fact that they talk about growth as their agenda, but they're not putting policies in place that grow an economy. Anyone who has been in business will know the only way you can grow a business or an economy is via low tax, low regulation, and decreasing the size of the state. And they're doing the opposite on each of those three measures. If they just wanted to be honest and say, we're going to be an old school leftist social redistribution government and make things fairer for people, I'd actually have more sympathy for that. It's the fact that they're trying to say they're going to get us out of this hole through growth, and they're doing everything they possibly can to say that growth won't happen. That's the problem.
Well, the other problem is that they keep telling lies. You know, apparently in June of last year, Sir Keir Starmer pledged during the election campaign to end asylum hotels, saving the taxpayer billions of pounds. That's a direct quote from him. I will end asylum hotels, saving the taxpayer billions of pounds. It now turns up there are 8,000 more asylum seekers living in hotels than last June. So they've actually increased the number, and the amount of money it costs now to put these asylum seekers up has been raised from something like 17,000 a year to 41,000 a year. So, I mean, the prices are going up, the number of hotels needed is going up, the number of asylum seekers is going up. So that's yet another Labour pledge, which turns out to be complete and utter tosh.
Yeah, this one makes my blood boil. And I don't want to play the whole Australian card, but I will say that Australia sorted this out 10 years ago. You don't put them in hotels, you put them in detention centres, so you create a disincentive for people to get on a boat, go over the channel and arrive in this country. There are plenty of legal ways that a refugee can apply to get into this country, which doesn't involve getting in a dinghy. And you know what happens when 90% of them are men and they jump the queue? There are women and children languishing in refugee camps who have applied for UK asylum in the proper way, and they're literally putting those people at the back of the queue. That's why when you see this stuff on the TV at the moment, it's morally reprehensible. Anyone who, and they're largely economic migrants, what they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely right. Nick, let's just finish up with Nick Timothy MP, Tory MP. We asked him to come on, he wasn't able to do so, but he put out a tweet at the weekend saying that basically in the 30 minutes of Prime Minister's questions last Wednesday, the Prime Minister told 25 lies in 30 minutes. I mean, that's quite a record even for him. And he then lists them all. When he said that interest rates were 11%, and when the Conservatives left office, that's wrong. The base rate was actually below 1% for 12 of the 14 Conservative years in power, and the peak was less than half of what Starmer claimed. When they said there was a massive £22 billion black hole, the OBR says absolutely not, that's not true. They crashed the economy, also not true. You know, all sorts of things. You know, he talks about national insurance. We had to fill a £22 billion black hole. Another lie. We're proud of the fact that our employment rights bill is tackling the cost. It goes on and on. You know, 25 separate untruths in half an hour. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, untruths or evasions. I think there was one question from Reform, which was very simply how, if the UK goes to net zero, how much will that reduce the global temperatures? And Starmer went on a rant about Reform's relationship with Putin.
Yeah.
PMQs have become a farce.
Which doesn't exist, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. PMQs have become a farce. There needs to be some mechanism to actually hold the Prime Minister account for non-answers or for lies. That normally should be the Speaker, and in a better day and age it was the Speaker. Unfortunately, it's not at the moment. So PMQs are useless at the moment.
They really are. Good to talk to you. Will Kingston, thank you very much indeed.